Hi, I'm Aaron with Aaron Training. I'm a professional fitness consultant. I'm a strength coach. I'm here with Bonnie.
Hello, I'm Bonnie. I have 18 food allergies and that's sort of why I'm here, to figure out what to do with them and how to make them sort of subside.
How did you find out about your food allergies?
Well, I was constantly getting cold and like sinus problems, so a lot of people said, oh, maybe you're allergic to dairy. So I went in and alas, I had dairy plus 17 other food allergies, and one of them was wheat also.
So we're here to talk about, essentially eliminating grains from your diet, because obviously the diet is the most important thing that causes allergies and inflammation. So what we can do is, if you eliminate grain from your diet, you can actually take away a lot of deficiencies in your body and actually help your body boost the immune system, your reproductive health, and actually take away some inflammatory agents that might be causing those 18 allergies. So one of the things I want to talk about is grain-fed meat versus grass-fed meat. And one thing with grain-fed meat is that the cows essentially eat a lot of grain or corn. And what corn does is actually it breaks down to sugar, and we don't want that, because what that does is it inflames your body. It can in fact inflame your heart and actually give you a heart attack. I'm just simplifying that, but I'm trying to give you a point that corn-fed versus grass-fed, and grass-fed is a lot more superior. I don't think cows are meant to eat corn and grain and all these different industry crops that you're just giving cows. I mean, you're giving that because it's really cheap. I mean, obviously it's a lot cheaper to give a cow a corn instead of letting them eat grass, but a cow's meant to eat grass, and guess what? By doing that, you're actually eliminating a lot of bacteria, a lot of E. coli, and the cow is happier. So that's the whole thing. If you eat a happy cow, you are
happy.
Exactly.
Makes you happy.
It's funny, but it's actually very true. So one of the things grass-fed has that grain doesn't is it's higher in nutritional density. So it's got a lot better ratio in omega-3s versus omega-6s. With corn-fed or grain-fed, you have a lot of adulterated omega-6, which is actually really inflammatory. The other thing I would like to mention is CLA, and how CLA is really helpful, because CLA is in the grass-fed meats, and the grass-fed meat actually, one of the benefits that CLA has is actually it helps reduce the risk for cancer. There's some studies that show that, and there's ongoing research about this topic, but CLA is really beneficial in terms of your well-being. That's another reason why we should go grass-fed and instead of the grain-fed meats that are a lot cheaper. So don't look at the price and say, oh, this is cheaper, I'm going to buy that. Opt for the grass-fed. That's going to do wonders for your health.
Because in the long run, you'll just have a more expensive bill anyway from the health insurance.
Yeah, I mean, you want to put into your body a nutritionally dense food, and you probably can't get any more nutritionally dense than grass-fed. Continue our discussion with grass-fed versus grain-fed meats, and one of the things off camera Bonnie and I were talking about was saturated fat. And what was the thing you mentioned to me? You thought saturated fat was...
I thought it was bad for you. I thought that was what was bad for you, like cooking with butter and things like that.
Right. Ideally, you don't want to cook with butter per se, because it's dairy, and we're trying to eliminate dairy from our diet. But cooking with fat is great. I mean, coconut oil, lard, these things are really necessary in your body. Saturated fat is something we actually want, because it lubricates your veins, and actually, if we didn't have saturated fat, guess what? We would probably die. There really isn't any study out there that proves saturated fat causes coronary artery disease or any kind of heart disease. One of the reasons, again, as I mentioned, saturated fat is something that lubricates your cells, and it's very vital to your well-being. With that said, whenever you have saturated fat in conjunction with corn-fed or grain-fed based meats, or chicken or whatever, or even soy, that's when trouble comes. That's where there's a red flag. That's where you actually get prone to a heart disease. That's because the grain, again, is inflaming your heart, and it's inflaming your veins. So if you eliminate the grain, then guess what? We don't have to eliminate that saturated fat. So cook with your lard, cook with your coconut oil. In fact, I'll take a bucket of coconut oil and I'll take a spoon and I'll just eat it. Maybe about 4 or 5 teaspoons, tablespoons a day. For me, I think is really beneficial. Again, it all depends on you and how much you want to have. But don't stay away from saturated fat. It's really helpful.
Wait, so I've been trying to do this grass-fed thing, How do I expand it? Say if I want to eat out with my friends on the weekend or something.
Sure. I mean, grass-fed. The good point is grass-fed meat is everywhere now. Maybe like 5 years ago, it was going to be harder, but it's a lot more prevalent now. So what I recommend is you go to your supermarket. Whole Foods and Henry's both have grass-fed meat all the time. Trader Joe's, they might have it once in a while. I check them, you know, when they stock their shelves. Maybe on Monday or Tuesday they might have it, but towards the end of the week they stop carrying it. The other thing is you want to check online sites. There's Broken Arrow, there's Hearst Ranch, and there's US Wellness. All three are fantastic meats. I bought them from all three sources and I love them. You just experiment with different cuts. You don't have to stick to one cut. In fact, get every single cut that you like. Get a little, you know, 1 pounder or something, and get every piece and get a giant box delivered to your door.
Yeah, why not?
And stick them in the freezer. In fact, you could probably buy a whole cow if you wanted to. They do. It's a couple $1,000s. And then if you want to go out, you eat out a lot?
I do. It's hard not to.
Ideally, you don't want to eat out because most people, you know, when they eat out, you're still eating the grain-fed sources. That's because it's cheaper. Restaurants carry cheaper meats, although they charge more, which is stupid. But you can go to eatwellguide.org. That's eatwellguide.org, and type in your zip code or postal code, and it'll give you a little radius of, you know, what grass-fed meat or organic markets or organic restaurants or grass-fed sources are anywhere near you in a 5, 10, 15 mile radius. So those are great ways. So you got your markets, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Henry's. You've got your eatwellguide.org, and you've got your 3 online sites: Hearst Ranch, Broken Arrow, and US Wellness. There's another thing I was skipping in my mind. Oh, and farmers markets. Don't forget your farmers markets. There's a farmers market everywhere, and every city probably has like 3 of them. Just check the date. Usually Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sunday. You're gonna have a farmers market. Get to know your farmer. You know, shake hands with them. They're people that drive their trucks to your city, and they have the meats right there. Buy a bunch of them, stick them in the freezer. It's not that hard. You can do it. So I want to summarize the grass-fed versus grain-fed meat comparison, and essentially what I want you to get out of this video is that grass-fed meat is nutritionally dense, whereas grain-fed meat is not. You're looking at a better ratio of omega-6 versus 3s. It does not contain the adulterated omega-6 that grain-fed meat has. It's got a lot more CLA, which again has a laundry list of health benefits, including the potential to lower your cancer risk or tumors. And what grass-fed meat does is actually has a little less saturated fat, but remember, more saturated fat is not going to kill you. So if you're on a grass-fed diet and you think all this meat's going to kill you and give you a heart attack or heart disease, it's not, because it does not have the grain that grain-fed meats have. Remember, fat is your friend, so cooking with lard and coconut oil in conjunction with the saturated fat in the grass-fed meat is actually going to take you a long, long way.